So I want to tell you that we just got back from our annual staff trip. And the way we do this is months in advance we pick a date on the calendar that I'm going to take my staff on a trip as a reward. And then we wait to see where in the world goes on sale, and that's where we go. So we just got back Friday from Maui, because Maui was on sale from Atlanta for $497 round trip. And the great thing was that where my wife and I stayed, because like Joel is one of the producers on the show, is 25. He didn't want to stay where an old guy like I would stay. But where my wife and I stayed, we were 4 minutes from the closest McDonald's. Now, I have been to that McDonald's before, but it was the first trip I've been to that one on Maui that they were honoring the dollar menu. So it was a much less expensive time at McDonald's than in the past. But the thing about the way I live my life is that it's all about how to get the greatest value for every dollar you have. And it's been central to my life for a very important reason. When I grew up in Atlanta, who grew up in Atlanta? Almost none of us. Okay. Well, I grew up here when this was a very, very small town. And I grew up on what I refer to as the silver spoon plan. I lived a very sheltered life as a kid. It seemed like we had everything anybody could ever want in the world. And when I was 18, I'd gone off to college in Washington, D.C., and I came home at Thanksgiving. And when I got home, we were having a family dinner, and there was just this somber thing going on. And as we're sitting there, I know something's really wrong here. And and I'm looking at my dad, and I'm looking around, and I decide in my own head that my dad must be dying. You know, that something's really, really bad here. So after dinner, sure enough, he asked me to stay at the table. And I said, okay, this is it. And he said, I need to tell you something. And he said, I lost my job. And all of a sudden, I'm smiling ear to ear. And he says, what are you smiling about? I said, well, I thought you were dying. And then he said, so then we continued talking, and he says, and I need to tell you, there's no money for you to go back to college in the spring. Then I was frowning again, because I thought we were just loaded with dough. Well, my parents were an early version of how we've lived in America, especially the last 20 years, which is all flash, no cash. And so when something happens to you as a teenager, it affects you so much. And so from that experience, I went back to school. I had to become a night student, and I got a full-time job, and I worked my way through the rest of school. And that turned out to be a great experience, by the way, because I was going to school in Washington. If you're ever in school, nowhere do you get jobs that pay more money than working in Washington, because you can get a government job. And I worked first as a civilian employee for the Air Force. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay. And why don't you tell people who you are and where you are in the McDonald's orbit?
Well, actually, my name is Shamika Ayers. I am a blogger, so my realm is social media. And I write a blog called The Broke Socialite.
Called the?
Broke Socialite.
Broke Socialite, okay.
So, anyway.
Are you broke because you have that very expensive iPhone?
I am broke. The emphasis is on broke, but I created a blog about 3 years ago, surely out of necessity. My husband and I were both in the technological field, got laid off. I like nice things, so I had to shift my paradigms and wait to get the bag or save to get the shoes. So it's become more of our everyday. But my question is, I have a son. He attends your alma mater, the Westminster Schools, and he has messed around and gotten a scholarship, a few scholarship offers. So what do we do now with that nest egg that we saved for him to go to school, because as it turns out,
You're not
it's a
going to need it.
blessing. We're
Right.
not going to need it.
Okay, and I don't know if all of y'all could hear it, but her son is a brainiac and got a scholarship
Does
to
not pick up
college.
his socks. He still doesn't pick up his socks. I don't know if that makes him a brainiac.
Well, being
I'm a
lazy
17-year-old.
has nothing to do with being a brainiac.
Right.
So he's going to have free ride to college.
A few different offers, yes.
Okay, so you have, was the money in a 529 plan?
Yes.
All right, and this is your only child?
This is our only child.
Okay, well, if you have money in a 529 account and you feel really generous about nieces and nephews, you can transfer the benefit of that for making one of them the beneficiary, or multiple relatives' children's beneficiary, and then the money still is spent tax-free.
Okay.
If you take the 529 money back for yourself, you pay tax on all your earnings plus a 10% penalty.
Thank you.
Sure. So you're going to be really popular with those nieces. As a tiny fraction of the number of people used to work there, the number of okay, let's just do a show of hands here. How many of you subscribe, have thrown at your driveway every day the Atlanta Constitution?
Just me.
Almost nobody. Almost nobody. If I had asked that question 15 years ago, it would have been almost everybody they would have either subscribed or pretended they subscribed when I asked a question like that. But as times change, things migrate and new opportunities always appear. What they'll be, I'm not smart enough to tell you, but there will be something. I think about, in my world, this is an amazing stat for me. I've been looking at my year-end figures for my company for 2009. Last year, my website generated more revenue than my entire syndicated radio show. And for years, my website was a cost center. It was just a companion to the show. And then starting in 2006, it became a significant revenue source. And by 2009, it had gone past what I make being on hundreds of radio stations around the country. And so the thing is, you just never know. Over the years, what I've done is, as new technologies have come along, I've adopted to them and migrated that direction. I remember years ago, I used to have a fax back service that people would pay to receive faxes from me. Then we migrated to the web and newsletters. And then more recently, like everybody else, we Twitter and we have a big presence on Facebook. And what we do is we try to integrate all of them together. We might send somebody a tweet about a new bargain that they should know about that they can see on my webpage at clarkhoward.com. On the Facebook, we give people an opportunity to share with each other. And in fact, there are unauthorized Facebook pages as well about me where people don't want to be under our umbrella but have their own presence where they talk about me or share info or disagree with me on Facebook. My thing is that wherever a customer wants to be reached, I'm going. And you can look at it as to be named, a future draft choice to be named. Whatever the next opportunity is to connect to a listener, a viewer, a reader, that's where I'm going from here.